Welcome to the Policy Subcommittee meeting. Today is Tuesday, February 27th. It is now 6 o'clock and we are at the Dr. William Arnone Theater. I'd like to just read this into the record. This meeting is not only being held in person, but is also accessible to the public by way of Comcast Channel 8 and 1071 HD version online by way of the link www.youtube.com/TheBrocktonChannels. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everybody to please stand to salute our flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to establish a quorum. Ms. Sullivan? Here. Mr. Gomes? Here. Ms. Oliver?
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Here.
Ms. Azak?
Here.
And I'm the vice chair. I'm here as well. At this time, Dr. Cobbs is running about 5 to 10 minutes late, and so I would respectfully ask if we could recess for about 5 to 10 minutes.
Just on the record, I'm here as well.
Okay. Oh, and the mayor is
I don't know
the
if
chair is
Mr.
with
Sullivan,
us.
is he zooming in tonight?
He is not.
Okay.
He is not.
Okay.
And so he's not on, and the chair is with us as well. And so I would respectfully ask if we could take a 10-minute recess so Dr. Cobbs can get here. So,
Motion, go ahead.
No.
Motion for a 10-minute recess.
Thank you. Second. And can I get a show of hands? Perfect. Thank you. Let's recess for 10 minutes. Okay, thank you so much for your patience and joining us. We're again back here at the Policy Subcommittee meeting at the Arnone Theater. Thank you so much for your patience. At this point, we are on discussion number 4, which is the Brockton High School cell phone policy. And what we were able to receive in the meantime is an updated version of a proposed policy. And I'm going to pass this one off to Dr. Jim Cobbs to talk about where we're at with the policy and with the yonder bags.
Okay, thank you. First, I apologize for being late. Like a creature of habit, I went over to the high school and went all the way to the little theater. Wrong place. So I apologize. So, as Kathy said, this is the new cell phone policy, which this committee needs to take a look at. We've highlighted some of the areas that we had questions. I did speak to the yonder representative again today, and regarding well, maybe I should back up because the last time you voted to approve the purchase order for the $137,250, we did have the purchase order set to go, and then we got an email from the procurement officer, Mike Morris, the city procurement officer, and even though they're a sole source entity, there's a limit of $100,000. So what we're looking at, I had a couple of conversations with the yonder representatives, and because of our policy the way it is right now, we're not going to implement the full policy in practice, all the yonder bags for every student this year. So I asked them if we could buy the ones we need for this year and get the program set up, and then in the next fiscal year in July, look at purchasing the rest of them. So they're willing to work with us on that. So we can work on, we get what we need this year and get the policy started. So,
Mr. Rodriguez.
So it's basically doing a pilot program to introduce the full.
And we had a discussion. I think an optimal usage of it would be, and Mr. McCaskill, if you want to join in the conversation, we just re-implemented the in-school suspension. And that's a place where we could use the pouches, put the phones in the pouch for that period until the students, or for the day when the students are there, and then when they leave, open the pouch and let them take their phone with them, so we can implement that sooner than later.
How does that work for the in-school suspension in terms of how it correlates to the cell phone policy? Is that what you're saying, that's an opportunity right now where we can remove the cell phones from them while they're in-school suspension?
That's correct.
Ms. Oliver.
How many pouches are we purchasing at this time?
We can set that number. I said at least 1,000 to get it started, so we'll have plenty, and then we'll have spares on hand, because there is the other part of the policy where you have the 3 strikes rule basically, and they have to lock it up all day long for repeat offenders.
Have we started the in-school suspensions?
Mr. McCaskill.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, we have started the in-house suspension program. Started the week prior to the vacation.
How's that going?
It's a buzz around school now. It's definitely a buzz, and it's something in which I think we definitely need it. And I want to applaud our behavior interventionists who have been manning that, and they have been just simply nothing short of spectacular in doing it. And they are buying in. Students are coming in and being placed here for the wandering and other offenses. And we have had anywhere from 10 to 40 students in there on a daily basis. And from our vantage point, it's doing its magic. And we just got to stay very consistent with it. And it's something in which when that buzz gets around the school and when you hear in the hallways, you better move because we don't want to go to in-house. I think it's having an impact on the school. Slowly but surely, it's having an impact on students wandering in the hallway. We still have a ways to go with it. But again, I think it's a great start.
Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez?
From the moment that a student enters in-house suspension, how is their day planned out? As far as doing their schoolwork, how is the day planned out from the morning they get in there to the end?
If they're going in, and let's say it is at the beginning of the day, they have a work packet before they even start. And so it's some preliminary work. It gives them this general information. There's an intake that they do, intake form that the staff performs. They are given a packet of work. That work, we actually have some help from our CTE director, Dr. Ferreira, and a lot of it's from a workforce development perspective package. So again, and get them thinking about more career. But that's also in lieu of the work that we also have of just identifying why you're here. And it's just a series of questions that only they can answer. And it's like a personal profile for them going in. So that really buys us some time until we can get the actual work from their teachers to really get the ball rolling. So, because sometimes those requests are not met within a certain time frame. But again, with the work that we have from Dr. Ferreira, which is very pertinent and not just waste of time, task oriented, but the preliminary work that we have with them really doing a self-assessment of why they're there, where's it gotten them with their current behaviors, where are they going with this, and really do some personal reflection and introspection. And it's proven to be pretty effective so far.
Are the adjustment counselors, guidance counselors involved in the in-house suspension?
We're getting to that point. We're definitely getting to that point, but just getting it up and running. We're getting kids really situated and understanding the rationale of why we're doing it and why they're there and as such. And I think that's eventually that tool. I think that other piece of it that you spoke of with the adjustment counselor and even the school counselors, I think we are a pertinent part of it as well.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Azak?
Thank you. Principal McCaskill. Just a quick question. So you mentioned anywhere from 10 to 40 students. Do we have a plan for the repeat students that are constantly going into suspension? Do we look a little further out? This is great to start, but are we going to give them a little more attention, have some kind of a program, work with them? Those are the ones we really need to focus on, are the ones that are just going to be repeat in-house suspension. That we, another way to get through to them, to work with them.
Well, I think that's the piece in which we get when you involve the adjustment counselors and as such. I think that piece will be that we can cut down on some of the recidivism that we may see going forward. So their work is going to be crucial to the success, not of the program itself, but most importantly, getting those students better acclimated into school.
Thank you. And when did we start? I know when did the actual in-house suspension start? Was it last week?
Yeah,
2 weeks ago?
The week prior to vacation.
So it's not bad. I mean, we have to start making changes to start seeing a difference. So I appreciate that. I mean, that's one change, that's going to be a little positive that we can look at to try to help our students rather
Absolutely.
than, watch them stay back and not be able to move forward.
Absolutely.
So it's all about being there to help them. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Principal McCaskill,
Yes.
First of all, thank you so much for being here. Secondly, have you had a chance to see the updated cell phone policy? I know that we had the original policy,
Sure.
and then Dr. Connors, I think she just spoke to you about this. And so I just want to kind of put it on record that at this point, you're going to have a chance to see the new cell phone policy and present it at the faculty meeting on Thursday so that at least we could hear some voices from the faculty, because I think that's really important right now.
And that can definitely be on our agenda.
Yeah,
for
I would.
Thursday and
I
get that
think
fit.
that three-pronged approach between this, faculty, I'm like, unless we're all in this together, like, there's
Absolutely.
no way it's gonna work.
Absolutely.
Okay, so at this point, I want to just go around the room and see, does anybody have any questions in regards to the new cell phone policy that we want to talk about, or we have questions on, or would we like Principal McCaskill to take this to faculty on Thursday, and then we revisit for final edits and be done with it by like end of business next week, and we can roll it out?
Quick question.
Mr. Chairman?
Dr. Cobbs, in terms of the yonder bags, I spoke to Lieutenant Governor the other day when she was the mayor of Salem. Salem High is a lot smaller than Brockton High, but it was very, very successful. In terms of what Mr. Rodriguez asked you, like 1,000 would be like a test case, a pilot, right?
Right.
How are they selected? How would the students be selected, those 1,000 students?
Well, like I said, it'll start with the in-house suspension, and then we'll work right now with the policy you have is a 3-strike policy.
Okay.
They will
And
have
then
them in the.
you're just
in
gonna
the
keep
lockers
adding to that?
bags, yes.
Okay.
Well, that allows us to get all of the equipment set up, the station for the magnets, and issue to the staff, train the staff up, and then have the people on site from the Yonder, because that's part of the package too for training for the staff.
Okay.
So, we're really training for the big opening, so when we go, policy goes school-wide.
Perfect. Thank you.
Dr. Cobbs, when do you anticipate between making the decision on the finalizing the policy and actually us finally getting to the point where we can order the yonder bags, do you have an ETA on when you think we're going to actually be able to go live?
We'll have, when you'll approve this tonight, essentially, we'll have those yonder bags shortly, within a week or two, and start the training process.
Okay, and so just to, again, throw this out there, Principal McCaskill, you're going to present this on Thursday, and then will you, in turn, make sure that Dr. Cobbs knows what the feedback is from faculty, and then he can circulate the new updated policy if there's anything that's changed, and if it hasn't changed, just say it's good as it is, or a couple of tweaks, and then we can get it into the record, and then we can order the yonder bags, whatever amount we're going to do, but we can at least move and start on it.
Exactly.
To Ms. Azak's point, I agree. Like, we have to do something. We have to act quickly.
So just so you know, Mr. McCaskill will roll it out to the general staff at the high school, but the administrative staff has already reviewed this and made their edits to it.
Okay, good. All right, any questions in regards, Ms. Azak? Oh, sorry, Mr. Gomes followed by Ms. Azak.
I just wanted to clarify, so we have not purchased any pouches yet?
Not yet, no.
Okay, because from our last meeting when we approved the cell phone policy, I thought it was going to be implemented after the break.
Yeah, but there was a problem because of the procurement. And again, the procurement officer, Mr. Morris at the City Hall, said we kind of put the brakes on things because we wouldn't be in compliance with procurement laws if we purchased a whole set all at once.
Okay.
Because it's
we're
a
limited to $100,000.
Yeah, I was going to say that, because it's a $100,000 like earmark. And once you get beyond that, it requires a lot more in regards to procurement. And Ms. Azak?
So my question was, we're going to purchase 1,000. What are we paying for the 1,000? Is it going to cost us more to order 1,000 than it would for 4,000?
Same price, $40 each.
So that just makes more sense. So
Right.
do we have a final number as to what it's going to cost us?
Well, eventually we'll buy 4,000, but we'll be ready to roll out the full policy.
So 4,000 at $40?
Right.
No other fees?
Well, yeah, there are training fees and setup fees with the staff. I think the last quote was about 200, 25,000 for the setup and training.
Okay. Honestly, I would rather put the 40,000, see if this works,
Right.
before we spend 160,000.
Right.
So definitely, I do like this approach, but again, I mean, I'm looking at the steps to a successful Yonder implementation, the sheet that we have, and training doesn't really look like it's going to be that complicated. I mean, I'm just put it in the machine, hit the button,
Yeah,
pretty much like they do at Macy's and some of the other stores,
Right.
unlock it.
Exactly.
So-
But it will for the full rollout because you have to, every student coming in the door, you have to put it in the bag and lock it.
Shut their phones off, put it in the bag, and it will be at the entrances
Right, where the
in
students
the
come in.
morning. So
Yeah,
our
exactly.
teachers are not going to have to be responsible
Right.
for
That's correct.
confronting the students.
And that's where the training, the Yonder people will be there with us when we implement and when we open up and have the students come in.
Okay. I mean, I would like to be there, so if you can at least let the committee know.
Of course.
Once they're in, and we can, those that want to be able, I'd like to see it in person, see it in actually how we're getting this done, because we also don't want to hold them up and have them standing long lines out the door like we did with it. But again, routine, they get used to it, phones off.
It will be, it's, it'll be a slow process to start, but then it'll go more efficiently each day.
Okay. No, definitely, because I know other schools, actually my nephew, my cousin, he got caught with his phone in Tennessee, and I'm sure they're watching. He had suspension on a Saturday, had to sit in suspension for having his phone. So, it just, and a lot of these are private schools too, so, we have to, I think we're helping the students, they're not realizing, I think we're going to help them in the long run.
And we will, not to interrupt you, I'm sorry, you finished?
No, I'm fine, yeah.
We will work with the school administration and the staff to, if we have to, for the first few days, do maybe a half-day schedule and do compress this period schedule just to get the students in the door first so they don't miss their classes. Well, we can work that out.
Thank you.
Yes,
Nobody
Mr. Chairman.
objects. Mr. Clarkson's here. I just had a question for the CFO.
Absolutely. Mr.
Troy?
Clarkson, would you mind coming up to the podium for just a second? Thank you, Principal Ms. Caskell.
Thank you, Mr. McCaskill. Principal McCaskill.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks for being here. I know you're scheduled to be here for 7, but if it's a $40,000 purchase, I know originally it was $137,000, but I just wanted to run it by you because of after what Mr. Plant mentioned to all of us last week. So if it's a $40,000 cost, which will be purchased in this fiscal year, what are your thoughts on that?
So we have been in our estimates for fiscal year 24. Good evening. For the record, I'm Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer. We have been carrying an amount for the Yonder bags in our estimates for this year. And it has been at the larger amount. So the expenditure of $40,000 fits within the projections we have for this year.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Cobbs, for getting creative in terms of how to...
You're welcome.
of
Gotta make it
getting
work.
us, to at least getting us to roll this out and splitting the cost between this year and next year. Mr. Rodriguez.
One question. The pouches of 40, what about the locking mechanism?
That all
How many
comes
of-
with the setup, that's part of it.
How many of those are we?
Well, it depends. They're going to do a walkthrough. I put that on pause to do a walkthrough of the school and do a layout of them, so I can get that number once we have the reps on the ground again, but we pause that. They were going to be here actually today, so because of the difference in the price and everything, and I wanted to have a committee kind of know what we're going to do first. So.
But now, part of it, in the cafeteria.
Yeah, that's part of it.
You have a gym, the auditorium, that you have more than enough so the students can unlock
Yes,
their phones.
absolutely.
All right, thank you.
The only other thing I was going to say is that when Mr. Rodriguez and I went out to Springfield, one of the things that they did talk about is the first day was really cumbersome, trying to get everyone used to locking them. And so the pilot of having 1,000, I think, will ease ourselves into it versus, to Ms. Azak's point, having, like with the metal
All at
detectors when
once.
we had everybody outside of the high school. So it's, at least we're moving forward. So.
Yeah, and that's going to be unavoidable, the delay initially, but it'll get better, get more efficient.
Any other questions in regards to the cell phone policy for the group? And then we can move on to item discussion number 5, which is laptop restitution, which I'm not 100% sure what that is. And so I figured that I'm going to pass this one off to you again, Dr. Cobbs.
Well, we've been working on this policy for quite a while, the laptop restitution, because, and particularly what we started this process actually back when we had the pandemic and school shut down, and we had to go into the getting laptops out to all the students, and we were finding that the laptops were being lost, they were being damaged, they were being, quote, stolen.
Madam Chair, sorry
Yes.
to cut you off. Where is that on the agenda? Are we just over, we don't see it listed on the agenda.
No,
Oh.
you're right. it's
Number
not-
5 is discussion of
Yeah, you're
BHS
right.
dress code.
That was,
Oh
it was
my
on
God.
before, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll come back with that one another time.
Yes, okay. I'm so
It's the
sorry.
dress
I
code
have that
policy.
on my agenda, but it must have been updated.
Yeah, I think
So
you're
number
right.
5 is discussion of the Brockton High School dress code.
Dress code.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, thank you very much. So I know that we had discussed in the past about having no hoodies, and this is again something that Mr. Rodriguez and I both, when we walked through Springfield, it was Thank you. When we walked through Springfield, it was evident that students were adhering to the dress code policy. And it wasn't anything that we were requiring. It was not a uniform. It's just basically giving us the ability to see every student's face without having a hood on them, and safety for their own sakes. So talk to us a little bit about where we are with the dress code policy at this point, because there's a new proposed policy in here.
And quite honestly, it's problematic. And again, the students started off the school year kind of where they left off last year. It's not so much a problem with mask or like we had before with the mask and the hoodie and everything else. You had no idea who the student was. But it's an issue still with hats and hoodies and crop shirts, and those are still problematic. Headphones and earbuds or cell phones, et cetera. So it's still a problem. I don't know, Principal McCaskill, again, if you want to speak to that or not.
He's never going to return. Here he comes.
Yeah.
I know, I was just thinking the same
Just
thing.
get him a chair over here, it'll be fine. Exactly.
I think there was a request to speak a little louder from everyone from the gallery. One of the things coming in, and again, just being there for roughly going on 2 months, I mean, it's a policy that has not been enforced. I mean, just being very honest and very transparent about it. And when we have a situation like this in which students have gone nearly 6 months without enforcement, and so now in the month of March, we're going to enforce a policy that has already been in the books. And that's going to put a lot of strain on the administrative team. And rightfully so, because of the timing of this. And so if that is the will of the school committee, we will enforce it. But I know there will be backlash. A lot of it from the students, obviously from their parents as well. And we will do our diligent duty to ensure that we are abiding and adhering to that policy. But again, this is not the most opportune time to transition into a policy that has not been enforced the entire school year.
Ms. Azak?
Thank you, Principal McCaskill. I agree with you. It's really tough. As much as we do need the dress code policy, we're putting a lot on our staff right at the moment with the cell phone, with everything. I guess it's hard to change a policy in March. And by the time we actually get it implemented, it's probably April. And we're expecting students to just change the way things are done. We don't want to add any more to our staff. I think we have enough to deal with at the moment. Again, if it becomes a problem, I was there, I witnessed it, I was there with you, the headphones, the hoodies. I would like to see what the staff would say and go with the majority, to be honest. There are eyes and there are ears. They're in this field every day. I'm not. I'd maybe leave it up to them. I agree with you, trying to change a policy or implementing a policy that we've had. It's just we haven't implemented it. We don't have the bodies in our school to enforce a policy. I don't know how the rest of the committee feels. It's just...
I agree. I have to be honest with you, I agree. I think that at this point, we roll out the cell phone policy, gain success and traction with that, and not be pummeling students and administration with, new things that they have to police, and I hate to put it that way, but that's essentially what we're asking them to do. And then, and this is something maybe we consider for the fall of 2024.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I don't mean to speak out. Definitely starting the school year makes more sense, but where we only have a few months left. Our teachers and our staff might think differently, but we're trying to do so much in a short period of time. I just don't want to add any more onto the staff's plate as far as, you're taking the cell phones away, and now you're dealing with the clothes. I mean, unless the clothing is really, really.
If it's provocative, I mean, if we were talking about something just extremely provocative,
Yeah.
and that's when we do have to take note, and I think those are the exceptions. But sometimes what's provocative for one
Correct.
may not be provocative for others. But again, I think just doing our due diligence and making sure that we are aware of these things, I think that goes for a great first step.
Definitely. For those that remember, I know I'm dating myself, but Dr. Applin, you used to have to kneel, and Dr. Applin would make sure if your skirt or your shorts were that short, you know, so, but again, everyone that I've heard from in the past couple of weeks, when we were in Brockton High, we couldn't do this. Well, it's a different Brockton High right now. So it's going to take a little bit of time to make some of these changes, and to be able to get some of the support from the students and the staff. I think just making some minor changes to get us through the end of the year, and then come September, this is what's going to happen. So, no, thank you.
Ms. Oliver?
I agree.
I think to piggyback off of Ms. Azak, right now we have more concern with safety. I think it's something that we have to more focus on safety at this time, and focus in September about dress code. If it's like something that has to do with safety, then we can focus on, but right now we have more concerning stuff that we have to focus on.
Thank you.
Ms. Sullivan?
Thank you, Principal McCaskill. What do you think that we could maybe implement now on the dress code? Like, what kind of things could we start with?
You know, for the most part, when we're going through those Hollywood hoods, and one of the things I've noticed, and again, this is just a personal observation. Students are compliant. When you tell them to take their hoods off, they'll take the hoods off. Now, when they get around the corner, the hood may go back on, but yet when they are told, they comply. And I think consistency is the key. That's on us as the adults. And also, you know, with respect, and I think when we're talking about that dress code, it has to be beyond what we have written down here. It's not because it's a rule and a regulation and a policy for a school district, but it's in preparation for the world of work. And when we see it through that lens, that you can't go to work looking like this, or you can't go into certain establishments looking like this, because again, that's societal. That has nothing to do with a school department policy. So it's something that they can transition into successfully. That's why, you know, Springfield with their dress code, it works. And I think if we start that and we implement it, you know, with some integrity, starting at the beginning of the school year, I think it really can have some legs very early. But when we get back to, again, a provocative outfit, it's not sending that child home, it's providing them with a T-shirt, male or female. Now, if they refuse the T-shirt, then your parents called. Now, if you don't want to comply there, then your parent has the obligation to take you home.
Is that what
Because
the
that's
policy
giving,
is?
and that's just following a progressive approach to solving an issue.
Yeah.
And that's,
Thank you.
Because I have more faith in our students and our families that they can, if we just say no dress code, you know, I think we could start with something that we have to be presentable or something.
And I think as we go along, and again, one of the things, you know, I think it's a bugaboo of mine, young men without a belt. You know, and again, and it's something that we don't need to see all of that business.
What's the belt?
We really don't.
Right.
And because again, it's decorum. It's about proper decorum and carrying yourself in a certain way, not just in school, but in society. And so those are things that we can do that are very immediate, and you give them what that means. And the ramifications of someone perceiving you in a certain way. And so when we start using that context on things, it really starts to change the way they act, the way they think, and how they move forward.
Right, thank you.
Ms. Azak?
Thank you, Principal McCaskill. So you touched base on the T-shirts. So for years, they used to have, I think they were like 4X. I know, you know, Ms. Walder, during her time, they were like fluorescent orange. Just something to, like, you're going to dress like this, we're going to throw a T-shirt on you, and that's how you're going to spend your day, and know tomorrow to come well-dressed. So it wasn't expensive. Do we still have any of those T-shirts, or?
There are quite a few T-shirts still floating around that high school.
And I think we need to start using them. But no, thank you. I know other principals have implemented something similar to that. So you've only been in this position a short period of time, and you jumped feet first. So we do appreciate, stepping in, but we have a lot of fixing to do.
Oh, absolutely.
And now we're starting, so we're going to see change. It's not going to happen overnight. We just need a little bit of time. People need to be patient with us. We will see change.
And that's
So
the expectation.
Thank you.
That's the expectation.
Well, while you're up there, I was hoping you could stay there because we can move to discussion item 6, which I'm sure you're going to be right back at the podium for, and that's about vaping. And again, we're responding to this because of, everyone else responding to it. And so, again, another policy, which I completely understand the stress that it puts on administration at this time of the year. But can you talk to us a little bit about the vaping issues and challenges right now? And if that is also something that you feel we could start the new fall off with, like you said, with integrity on the right foot, if that's something we could do fall 2024?
Well, I think with the current policy on hand, it's really cut and dry. It's an illegal substance on school grounds. So when students are caught with it, and again, if they're caught with it, they face disciplinary action in accordance to the code of conduct. So students are not only vaping, marijuana use. So when they are caught with those things, and again, if they're in hindsight of a camera and we can identify, the appropriate disciplinary measures are taken. It's only when it's in those stairwells that aren't manned, and then you can hear, everyone has their olfactory senses are always going. You can smell certain substances. And then you flee, you see students and they don't have anything on them after a legal search of their possessions. There's not too much we can do. But again, if they are in possession of those items, it is against Brockton Public School policy, and we can act accordingly from a disciplinary perspective.
But again, to your point, if we haven't been enforcing it all year, even though the policy is solid, if we haven't been enforcing it, is that something that we, are we enforcing it, or are we not enforcing it enough?
I think it is. It has been enforced. And I think now just really making sure that we do more due diligence in doing that. I think one of the things is from a search perspective. As you know, school law and criminal law are two different things. So if we have a suspicion, suspicion of someone having something, we can check bags.
Yeah.
And not that we want to become that type of school.
Invasive.
But very evasive.
Yeah.
But I think those are things that we can do. One of the things I think in certain hot spots in the school, we've really minimized the use, especially when we look at the fine arts building. And during the early morning hours. And I want to say thank you to our school police force. Thank you for helping us out and really doing an outstanding job. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Their presence in the morning has just almost eliminated what we had seen early on in January and as such, but it's due to their efforts and the efforts of our administrative team. So we're seeing some differences. Now, if we can do the same inside, and again, I think that's more of a personnel and strategically placing people in the right places, I think you'll see a slow reduction of those types of situations going on within our school. But again, we're not talking about this should take 2 or 3 years. I think, again, due diligence on all our parts, and we'll see some change.
Great. Does anyone else have questions? Ms. Azak?
It's, so under Mass General Law, Chapter, I believe it's 71, Section 2A, use of electronic cigarettes are prohibited in school buildings, grounds, buses, or school-sponsored events.
Absolutely.
So I know we haven't been as strict. I mean, I've seen people vaping at events. And again, they're not supposed to be on I mean, you see them. They have the vapes and stuff. Other than taking them away from them, again, we're going to have the repeat. I don't want to say repeat offenders, but they're repeatedly not listening, bringing in the vapes, selling the vapes, things like that. So these are policies we already have. And a lot of people are saying we should be making policies, sit down, have meetings, make them. They're policies we have. We just need to start implementing these policies. We have to enforce these policies, actually. But everyone's saying, create policies. We have these policies. We just have to start enforcing them. And I'm not sure what happened over the past few years, because again, this wasn't the Brockton High. Yes, things have always happened, but it's not the Brockton High a lot of us grew up in. It was a lot stricter. So we'll blame it on COVID. Before COVID, I mean, we can't keep blaming COVID. I mean, it's been almost 4 years. But now we need to start enforcing the policies as much as we can. So again, these are policies we've had. And I know a lot of people, I've seen it on social media, you know, let's sit and create policies. We have them. We've created them. We just need to update them and start enforcing them. But so it is illegal to have them.
Yep.
You know, and our students need to understand, you're bringing in tobacco into the school. It's illegal. Even an adult can't be bringing them into the schools, so, or school events. But, and I've always said it, do an assembly, let's remind them what you can and can't do before they get in trouble, and try to give them some information, because no one's really reading these handbooks that we have. No, they sign them off. And there's a lot of information in these handbooks. We have them for the high school, all the schools. They all have the handbooks. But like I said, these are policies we already have. So, but thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you. When you sit back and reflect of what's going on at the high school, you're talking about the cell phone, you're talking about vaping, you're talking about students walking out. Policies are there that exist. It's not that the policies are not working, it's just because we're not properly staffed. So how are you going to enforce those policies when we don't have the staff in there, we don't have the educators to make sure that these policies are being enforced? You can try, you're going to get the pushback. At the end of the day, it's this committee to make sure that we properly fund education and making sure that the money is there and the bodies are there, so the principal can do his job and the staff in the building can do their job. So we can talk about policy all we want. At the end of the day, it starts with the staff in the building. Thank you.
Mr. Gomes?
Mr. Rodriguez just mentioned a point I was going to touch on. It was more of a question. I was going to ask, besides not having enough staff to reinforce these policies, what else do you guys need?
Just the will to get it done. Just the due diligence and the will to continuously and consistently get that done every single day. And I see a staff that is willing to do that. So it's just a matter of us getting together, getting on the same page and doing our due diligence. Because you can't throw money at this issue. Again, this is a human capital. It's a human capital issue, but it's also a human will issue as well. And I feel that at some point in juncture, we'll hit a tipping point, and then we'll start to see the change. We'll start to see the change that we want to see as a school community.
But you would agree if you had enough staff?
Well, especially when we talk about the stairwells and the such and other spots, especially out near our exit, entrance and exiting doors. Yeah.
Yeah, that's important because we have policies for all these issues that are coming up. It's just having, people to implement these.
People and will.
Exactly. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee for Principal McCaskill? Thank you very much, Principal McCaskill. That leads us to any other business. Does anybody have any other business for policy right now that we want to discuss? Ms. Azak?
Scheduling another meeting to make sure these are, can we schedule it now?
Yes. Let's take a look at our calendars right now.
Can we squeeze it on to the next meeting? Or is that too short of a notice?
On March 5th.
Because I believe he has his meeting with the staff Thursday.
Yep. Thursday night, we have our regular...
That is an election night.
Yep.
Usually we don't meet on the night of an election.
On March 5th.
We never moved it. Usually we don't, even though it's a presidential election, we usually don't meet because we never moved it unless we move it for a different night. I'm not sure.
Do we have to move it? I would say I would like to have the March 5th meeting, and I would like to have the policy right before it so that we can get feedback from Principal McCaskill.
We have a finance at 6.
Can we do all right, let's look at the following week. Hold on.
I don't think we should cancel. TJ Plant's going to be coming.
That's what they were saying. They're like, so we can't, because
Yeah.
we have finance already. So I'm like, let's look at another date. So What about the following Tuesday?
The 12th?
Yes.
We have transportation at 6.
Can we do a policy at 7?
Spring concert at 7.
Yeah, no.
We've also met twice in 1 week. If we have to, we can meet twice. This is what we signed up for, and we have a lot going on right now. Kathy?
yeah,
Melinda's-
I could do 5:30. Do we want to do 5:30 policy? 6 o'clock finance, 7 o'clock school committee.
The 5th?
Yes, on the 5th. Do you want to try to do that? Solidify the cell phone policy
Yeah.
from 5:30 to 6, 6 o'clock finance, 7 o'clock school committee?
Yeah.
We got, okay, perfect, let's do that then. Thank you so much, Melinda. All right, at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Ms. Sullivan.
Second.
Second, Ms. Oliver. Can I get a show of hands? Excellent, thank you so much.